Welcome back to our channel. It is a truly wild Tuesday, and we are here to break down the latest Port Charles chaos. The gavel echoed like a gunshot through the mahogany walls of the Port Charles courthouse, shattering lives in a fraction of a second and forcing a family into a permanent, inescapable nightmare. Oh my god. I'm screaming. I literally cannot even deal right now. Okay, but listen. I was eating dinner and literally choked on my pasta when this scene played out. I had to pause and text my friend immediately because my brain is actually short-circuiting and I cannot process the absolute devastation we just witnessed. I am honestly losing my mind over it. They are acting so unhinged and I am sitting here sweating, gripping my throw pillow like it's a life. I'm dead. I literally can't breathe. The sheer volume of drama that just exploded in that courtroom is going to haunt my dreams for the rest of the— Oh wait, before that happens, we need to talk about the absolute sheer hubris of Curtis Asher. I forgot to mention earlier, but Curtis was literally handed a 2-year plea bargain on a silver platter. 2 years! With good behavior, he could have been out in like 8 months. But no, he had to play the macho hero and turn it down completely against all legal advice. Why would he do that? Seriously, why? He wanted to fight for his place in baby Desmond's life, and he absolutely refused to let Isaiah Gannon just swoop in and take his daddy spot while he sat. Which, okay, I get the protective dad energy, I really do. But rolling the dice on a jury trial in Port Charles when you literally did assault the guy, that is actually the most ridiculous gamble of all. At this point, I'm yelling at my screen, telling him to just take the deal, but he wouldn't. Which is insane, by the way, because he knew exactly what Portia was going to say on that stand. And don't even get me started on that. Portia Robinson got up on that witness stand and decided that today was the day she was going to be the patron saint of brutal, unforgiving honor. Jordan Ashford literally begged her in the hallway to soften her story, to frame it as a domestic misunderstanding. But did Portia listen? Nope. She needs to get it together, I swear. She sat up there under oath and painted Curtis as this violent aggressor who ruined Isaiah's surgery. She handed the prosecution the conviction wrapped in a bow. I was like, are you serious right now? You lied to Curtis for 20 years about Trina's paternity, but suddenly you can't tell a little white lie to keep the father of your new baby out of a maximum security prison? The hypocrisy is actually blowing my mind. Wait, did I already say that? Whatever. Anyway, the tension in the courtroom before the verdict was read was literally suffocating. The air was so thick you could carve it. The judge is sitting up there on the bench, looking down at everyone with this incredibly grim expression, and the silence in the room was so loud it was deafening. You could hear a pin drop. Curtis is standing there next to Martin Gray, holding his breath, his shoulders completely rigid. He really thought he could beat. He actually believed the jury would see it his way and acquit him. Delusional. Seriously delusional. Portia is sitting right behind him in the gallery, looking like all the blood has completely drained. Marshall and Stella are gripping the wooden benches, and you can just feel the collective panic raging. Okay, where was I? Right, so the judge opens the envelope. My jaw dropped. I completely stopped. The judge looks at the paper, looks at Curtis, and says those find the defendant. There was this agonizing, horrific pause that felt like it lasted for 3 business. Guilty. Guilty. I'm dead. I literally threw my fork across the room. The judge didn't even get to finish the rest of the sentence regarding the assault charges before the entire room just erupted into absolute chaos. Guilty. And because Curtis proudly turned down that plea bargain, there is none. It is completely, irrevocably over. He is going down. At this point, I'm yelling at my screen so loud my dog started barking. Curtis's face. Oh my god, I honestly felt physically sick watching. He just stood there, completely frozen in place, stunned, dead behind the eyes. It was like you could actually see his soul leave his body in real. The realization hit him like a freight train that he is actually going to prison. Real prison. Not a slap on the wrist, not an 8-month stint, but years behind. He gambled his entire future, his freedom, and his chance to raise his son, and he lost everything. I am personally offended by his reckless choices, but seeing a man look that broken and defeated was actually devastating to witness. And then, Portia. Oh my god, Portia. The exact second the word guilty echoed through that courtroom, she literally collapsed. Her knees just gave out from under her, like the strings of a marionette were cut. Marshall had to lunge forward and catch her, holding her up as she just fell into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The wails coming out of her were so raw and visceral. And you know exactly why she broke down like that? Because in that horrible, blinding moment, she realized that her testimony is what did this. Her brutally honest, unyielding words on the witness stand are exactly what just sent the father of her baby to a prison. The guilt washing over her face was insane. She did this. She actually did this. I'm calling it now. This is going to end badly for everyone. Mark my words. Forgot to mention earlier, but Auntie Stella literally called this days ago. She was sitting on the couch with Marshall, fretting about how this trial was going to completely decimate their family, and she was 100% right. Portia is now left with this endless, agonizing torment because she knows she pulled the trigger on Curtis's freedom. She had the power to soften the blow, to introduce reasonable doubt, but her righteous honesty doomed, and now she has to live with that heavy, suffocating guilt for the rest. The Ashford family's immediate reaction in that courtroom was honestly the most brutal, heartbreaking part of the entire episode. Marshall was physically holding Portia up so she doesn't hit the floor, but the look he gave her, the look Stella gave her, it was pure, unadulterated. They are completely freezing her out right then and there. You could see the alienation happening in real time. They feel like she betrayed Curtis at the absolute last minute when he needed her the most. She was supposed to be his family. She was supposed to protect the father of her child, but instead, she threw him to the wolves. The Ashford family is going to completely cut her. She is going to be entirely isolated. Then the bailiff walks over with the hand. The metallic clicking sound of those cuffs locking around Curtis's wrist. I can't breathe. It was so final. So incredibly final. He is being physically escorted out of the courtroom by the guards, and right before he walks through those heavy wooden doors, he looks back over his shoulder at Portia. That look is going to haunt my night. It wasn't even full of burning rage. It was just pure, hollow, devastated shock. He is walking into a literal cage, and Portia is left standing there, weeping, surrounded by a family that suddenly despises her. It is so dramatic. And what about baby Desmond? This is the part that is making me so incredibly mad right now. They all stood around claiming they were making these impossible choices for the baby. Curtis rejected the plea deal because he wanted to be there for Desmond. Portia told the brutal truth on the stand because she claimed she needed to protect Desmond's peace and build a permanent record. And what is the result of all this noble posture? Desmond's hope for a complete, happy family is completely and utterly destroyed. He is going to grow up visiting his father through a thick pane of plexiglass in a maximum security prison visit. The absolute tragedy of it all is just so heavy. I am literally crying over a fictional baby right now. I swear I am way too emotionally invested. Wait, what about Isaiah? I didn't even catch his full reaction because the camera was focused on Portia collapsing. But you just know he is probably feeling so incredibly vindicated. He wanted to nail Curtis to the wall for ruining his hand and destroying his elite surgical career. He wanted payback, and he got exactly what he wanted. But at what cost? He is currently dating Portia, but Portia is now a complete and total wreck, alienated from her daughter's family, drowning in an ocean of guilt. It's not a victory for anyone. It is just a massive, catastrophic mess that leaves a trail of broken lives. I just keep circling back to Portia's choices, and I am getting mad all over. Why couldn't she just lie a little bit? Or at least omit the absolute worst, most damning parts of the altercation? I know she wants to be this upstanding, ethical doctor and a pillar of the community, but honestly, when it comes to the father of your child facing years in prison, you bend the rule. Everyone in Port Charles bends the rule. Carly would have lied without blinking. Nina would have lied. Ava would have buried the evidence herself. But Portia had to be the ultimate moral compass, and now look exactly where it got. I am so mad at her, like she's a real person sitting in my living room making terrible life. And Curtis, honestly, the male ego is an absolute disease. He just couldn't stomach the idea of Isaiah playing house with Portia and the baby while he did a short, manageable stint in Penn. He had to gamble his entire future, his entire life, on a jury trial in a town where literally nobody ever gets a fair shake unless Diane Miller is standing. Why didn't he hire Diane? He had Martin Gray, who is great and slick, but come on. The sheer arrogance to turn down a guaranteed short sentence when you actually did commit the assault is wild. He let his pride drive the car, and it drove him straight off a cliff into a prison. I'm calling it now. This is going to completely destroy Portia and Isaiah's relationship. There is no way they survive. Portia is going to be so consumed by toxic guilt that she won't even be able to look at Isaiah without picturing Curtis sitting in an 8x10. Every time she looks at the baby, she's going to remember that she is the reason Desmond's father isn't there. And Trina? Oh my god. Trina is going to absolutely lose her mind. Trina loves Curtis so much. When she fully realizes that her own mother's testimony is what sealed his fate and sent him away, she is going to completely cut Portia off. Stella was right all along. Trina is going to distance herself from all of this toxic drama. Okay, I need to take a deep breath. My heart is literally pounding out of my... The visual of Portia collapsing, Curtis in cuffs looking back in shock, the Ashford family turning their backs with ice in their eyes. It is cinematic perfection. It is tragic. It is iconic soap opera drama at its absolute. I am going to be thinking about this devastating courtroom scene all week long. I literally have to go rewatch the entire episode right now because my brain missed half of the dialogue while I was screaming at my television. So dramatic. I'm done. I honestly cannot take any more of this emotional roller. Will Portia ever earn back the Ashford's trust, or is Curtis lost to prison forever? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below and subscribe for more.